I still remember that night, the one that shattered something inside me before I even realized it. It started innocently, or at least I thought it did. We were at a friend's wedding, the kind where everyone's dressed to perfection and laughter hangs heavy in the air. I had just poured myself another glass of whiskey when she whispered across the table, "You know, you're kind of like Mark used to be." Mark. Her ex. The words hit me like a punch I hadn't seen coming. I froze, my hand shaking slightly as the glass clinked against the table. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs. And then it happened, the crowd. A few of our friends had overheard her, and I swear I could hear the collective "oh" ripple through the room. For a second I questioned myself. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe she was joking. But her eyes, those dark, steady eyes, were on me, expectant, almost daring me to respond. And I didn't. I smiled, forced and brittle, and said something meaningless about needing another drink. Inside, everything was collapsing. It wasn't the first time something small had made me uneasy. Over the past few months, subtle signs had begun creeping in. Missed calls she'd forgotten to mention. Text messages she'd shielded from me with a quick swipe of her thumb. Her phone always face down on the counter. I questioned myself endlessly. Was I imagining things? Was I being paranoid? But that night, as I watched her laugh with people I barely knew, I felt a shift. Every memory we'd built, our late-night drives, the quiet breakfasts, the lazy Sundays, suddenly carried a strange weight, as if each one had been lying to me, whispering secrets I wasn't meant to hear. The betrayal, when it finally became real, was almost anticlimactic. I was looking for something innocuous, a text about groceries maybe, when I stumbled across the messages I wasn't supposed to see. Flashes of conversations with Mark, intimate and casual at the same time, like they'd been rehearsing moments of passion I had been excluded from. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. I couldn't breathe. I kept telling myself it wasn't real, that I must have misunderstood the context, but the evidence didn't lie. I tried to confront her later that evening, my voice shaking. Why would you say that about me in front of everyone?" I asked, trying to keep my composure. She looked at me, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then her lips curved into that calm, practiced smile. "I wasn't saying you're like him in a bad way," she said softly, almost tenderly. "I just meant, you're different but maybe a little familiar. That's all." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But the texts, the hidden messages, the laughter at jokes I didn't get. It all pressed in, suffocating. Every kiss we'd shared, every whispered promise, felt contaminated by doubt. The next few days were hell. I caught myself replaying her words, the sneers of the crowd in my mind, the subtle smirk as she said his name. I tried to talk to her, to force explanations, but each conversation ended in confusion, half-truths, and the gnawing ache that maybe I had already lost her. I remember sitting alone in the kitchen one night, the fridge hum filling the silence. I traced my fingers along the edge of a mug, thinking about all the mornings I believed in us, all the nights I'd stayed awake imagining a future together. And then I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. Not fully. Not when every glance, every word, might be a hidden echo of someone else. Finally, I confronted her fully. We were in the living room, the city lights bleeding through the blinds, the air thick with everything we hadn't said. I saw the messages. I whispered, my throat tight. "I know about Mark. I can't do this anymore if this is who we are." Her eyes flickered, guilt, or maybe anger, I couldn't tell. She started to speak, but I held up a hand. "No, don't. I loved you, God knows I did. But this isn't love. Not if it's built on comparisons, secrets, and what-ifs." There was silence, heavy and suffocating. I walked out then, the door clicking softly behind me, and for the first time in months, I felt a strange clarity. The pain was raw, yes, but also liberating. I didn't need her validation. I didn't need the echoes of a past I wasn't part of. Weeks later, the memory of that night still stings. But I've rebuilt something steadier, quieter. A life where my worth isn't measured against someone else's ghost. I've learned that love isn't about comparisons, and trust isn't something you can demand once it's broken. It's something that must be nurtured, and sometimes painfully it must be let go. And sometimes the most powerful "oh" isn't from the crowd. It's from yourself when you finally choose to stand up, walk away, and claim your own life. Uncompared, unshaken, unbroken.